Hola, hola, amigas. Welcome to another episode of Modern Latina in Midlife. As I have shared with you over the past year, 2023 was a year of pivots and growth for me. I became a life coach and stepped fully into my energy healing and channeling abilities. In the process of my coaching and mentorship programs, goals were set and action plans were created. So, ending the year of 2023, I had a plan in place for 2024 already. And the intention was that I would hit the ground running in 2024. I also took some time off in December as I went over to Costa Rica to spend a couple of weeks there, where I was blessed with a lot of downtime. Rather than filling every day with activities and sightseeing, which I do love, by the way, what I decided on this trip was that I wanted to take it slow. I scheduled a couple of days of activities for myself, and the rest were relaxing days. And by the way, if you have not been to Costa Rica, I highly recommend you add this to your bucket list. What an absolutely beautiful country. Now, in full disclosure, we stayed in a house right on the beach. It was truly heaven, but the entire country, the mountains, the trees, the volcanoes, the nature, the food, the people, the beaches, it was just absolutely gorgeous. This only confirmed that my Zen place, my safe haven, is by the beach. So prior to leaving to Costa Rica, I was finishing up my 12-week intuitive channeling mentorship. And one thing that kept coming up in my channeling with myself and even with my spiritual colleagues was this idea of stepping into my feminine, for me in particular, stepping into my feminine, becoming or embodying that queen that I am, that I'm meant to be, to receive and to slow down. So basically, to embody my feminine energy. And this is something that hasn't come easy to me as I've been a single mother, for many years, having to hustle to make ends meet since I got divorced. So I've had to learn to depend on myself and only on myself. And that often meant that I had to hustle and grind to make ends meet and to make the rent and support the kids and all that stuff that comes with being a single mother with no financial support. At least this is the programming that I received growing up and that I've learned from society and one that I have lived by since I was, a teenager. So, in leaving to Costa Rica, I decided to slow the F down, way down. I was there for 9 days and engaged in, I think it was like two like major activities in this entire time. One day we went to this wildlife preserve over by Boas volcano and to a waterfall. And then another day we went for a whole day on a day trip to the resort, a resort over by Arenal or in Arenal, I should say. This was a 4-hour drive for us. We stopped in La Fortuna for the waterfall. You can skip this, by the way, when you go. You don't need to stop by La Fortuna waterfall. And then we spent the rest of the day at the Hot Springs Resort. That is a must. This resort had 25 hot springs pools that went from warm to hottest as we stepped into the resort. So the further you got away, each pool got hotter. And then there were 3 cold pools as well for cold plunging. And this resort had a view of the Arenal volcano, which is why I selected this particular resort, but I'm sure there are many in the area that do. However, on this particular day, the visibility was poor and we never got to see the volcano. So, must go back. And then there was a third activity planned to ride ATVs, which I decided to opt out of in lieu of staying at home alone to read a book, do my meditation, my journaling, and just hang out by the beach. And it was truly dreamy. This trip had a theme, and it was to slow down. A second theme was to step into my feminine energy fully and allow myself to receive. I was put to the test constantly with trigger after trigger. But I'll share more about that experience in another episode. Of course, this is unbeknownst to anybody else in the house. These are all my own triggers inside internally and my own internal work that I was doing. Nobody knew, of course. So the book that I chose to take with me to for this slow down time and to like read at the beach and by the pool was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I was gifted this book in 2008 and I tried to read it then and was not able to get past the first couple of pages. It went right it went right over my head. I didn't have a clue what was being said, and for whatever reason I decided to hang on to this book. And on this trip, it went with me. I put this book back on my reading list last year, and I finally got around to reading it on my trip to Costa Rica. Talk about serendipity. The Power of Now is a book really about slowing the fuck down. So it was perfectly in theme. Now, mind you, in full disclosure, I have the book here for those of you who are watching on YouTube. I'm only about halfway through. But this is what I have to do. I kind of have to digest it and take it a little bit at a time, and learn as I go. So it's been helpful and it's been truly enlightening. So anyways, to talk a little bit about the concept of slowing down, what was coming up for me prior to leaving to Costa Rica in meditating and in channeling messages from my spirit guides and even in channeling for my clients as well as during, you know, group energy clearings I did at the end of the year for the collective is that we need to take the time to slow down. We not only live in a fast paced environment in this modern life, we have this common misconception that constant busyness equates to productivity and success. But the message that I was receiving was, or the messages that I was receiving in my various channeling sessions for myself or for others, were that by actually slowing down, we can actually gain more clarity, enhance mindfulness, and open pathways to deeper understanding and intuition. See, in these moments of slowing down and just being, not doing, we actually make space to hear our spirit guides or our angels or our higher self, whatever you want to call it. We make the space to hear the messages and the solutions and the inspired action, gain the inspired action that we actually need to take. It allows us to get out of our ego minds and be present. And in gaining this clarity and acting only on inspired action, we will actually be more productive and more efficient and take the right steps to reach our soul purpose, live in our live in our authenticity, reawaken our authenticity, and live in fulfillment. Therefore, allowing us to quantum leap our growth, our magnetism, and our manifestation. In addition, in these winter months of shorter days and longer nights, our cycles push us into this coziness and hibernation mode. There is a reason so many of us want to stay cozy indoors, call it a night earlier than in summer days because the days are darker earlier. This is normal. Our bodies as women, they cycle throughout the month with the moon. These are our cycles or periods when we're aligned. They usually align with the full moon or the new moon. And they also cycle throughout the year, our bodies. When we're on our moon cycles or our periods, our energy level is low. When winter months hit, our energy levels also tend to be lower than the rest of the year. It is a time for introspection, for reflection, for slowing down, for recharging our bodies, and for self love. So, going back to my plans and goals and hitting the ground running in 2024, as soon as the year hit, was very quickly brought to a screeching halt. It was actually quite comical. I shared on my stories once about one day last week that about 75% of my appointments uh, canceled the last week of December and the first week of January. And although at first I was a little bit annoyed, mostly at myself, because my egoic mind was telling me it was my own low vibe energy that was creating this, I quickly realized this wasn't happening to me, that it was happening for me. Again, contributing to this slow down concept for myself and really for the collective. I usually start the year, the first week of the year, by taking the week off, at least not being client forward facing. But since I went to Costa Rica in December, I thought I would just go right away, get back from Costa Rica and be available for my clients, schedule podcast interviews. And my body and energy and my higher self told me otherwise. So, lesson learned, next year, I'll plan accordingly. I won't schedule any meetings the last week of December or the first week of January because, frankly, we are all on hibernation mode and in this mode to just slow down. And that's okay. I'm here for it. So, now going back to The Power Now, the book, I'm happy to report that I have had much better success reading The Power of Now this time around. It is not a book that I can just sit and read from cover to cover in a couple of days, like I do a novel. But for me, it is taking me some time to process the teachings and integrate them, really to think about it and start to apply it into my daily life. Um, it's not a super easy read, I have to admit. Even for me, at a much more developed place that I am, I like to call myself having gone through a spiritual awakening, and I don't claim to have completed that. I don't think we ever complete that. Um, but I'm in a much different place consciously than I was when I was first gifted this book. And it's still mm, a little difficult to, not, I don't want to say difficult to understand, but really it just, I like to process it. I like to allow it to integrate. So I take breaks in between chapters or sometimes even in between paragraphs. So I haven't finished it yet. I'm about halfway through, as I mentioned, but there are some really great pieces that I would like to share with you on the topic of slowing down, being present, and potentially creating a quantum leap growth as a result. So I'm going to read a segment from the book. So this is in chapter 2, Consciousness, the Way Out of Pain. The greater part of human pain is unnecessary. It is self created as long as the unobserved mind runs your life. The pain that you create now is always some form of non acceptance, some form of unconscious resistance to what is. On the level of thought, the resistance is some form of judgment. On the emotional level, it is some form of negativity. The intensity of the pain depends on the degree of resistance to the present moment. And this in turn depends on how strongly you are identified with your mind. The mind always seeks to deny the now and to escape from it. In other words, the more you are identified with your mind, the more you suffer. Or you may put it like this: the more you are able to honor and accept the now, the more you are free of pain, of suffering, and free of the egoic mind. Why does the mind habitually deny or resist the now? Because it cannot function and remain in control without time, which is past and future. So it perceives the timeless now as threatening. Time and mind are, in fact, inseparable. The mind, to ensure that it remains in control, seeks continuously to cover up the present moment with past and future. And so, as the vitality and infinite creative potential of being, which is inseparable from the now, becomes covered up by time. Your true nature becomes obscured by the mind. So, what this means to me is our minds are always going, and I am not immune to this. Like, this is for sure me. If I go out for a walk, I'm usually listening to a podcast episode, and this podcast episode is making me think, and it's occupying space. It's taking up energy. It's occupying my mind. It's making me think about the past of something that happened in the past and analyzing it, or it's making me think of the future and making plans for the future. So when we take the time to just really enjoy the present and the now and truly enjoy that walk without, say, a podcast or anything, just go out and just enjoy what I'm looking at, then it creates space in the mind to slow down the mind and to allow it to be void of, well, mind and time, creating more time to slow down and potentially time to hear messages and to receive the downloads that hear our intuition. So let me read another piece on page 96. Beauty arises in the stillness of your presence. Zen masters use the word satori to describe a flash of insight, a moment of no mind and total presence. Although satori is not a lasting transformation, be grateful when it comes, for it gives you a taste of enlightenment. You may indeed have experienced it many times without knowing what it is and realizing its importance. Presence is needed to become aware of the beauty, the majesty, the sacredness of nature. Have you ever gazed up into the infinity of space on a clear night, awestruck by the absolute stillness and inconceivable vastness of it? Have you listened, truly listened, to the sound of a mountain stream in the forest? Or to the song of a blackbird at dusk on a quiet summer evening? To become aware of such things, the mind needs to be still. You have to put down for a moment your personal baggage of problems, of past and future, as well as all of your knowledge. Otherwise, you will see but not see, hear but not hear. Your total presence is required. So it's interesting. When I was in Costa Rica, the day that I decided not to go ATV riding, I went to the beach, took my towel, my book, my beach bag, and I had my phone and my headphones and stuff, and my journal, and my water and a little snack, and just sat there at the beach for hours. And I think I think what happened, I think I may have forgotten my earbuds and I couldn't hear my what I was trying to listen to, or actually, no, no, no. What happened is I wanted to read my book and I had forgotten to take a hat to cover the brightness of the light. So it made, from the sun. So it makes it hard for me to read if I don't have my hat, because I can't wear my sunglasses because my sunglasses are not prescription and I can't read my book. So I have to use my reading glasses and wear a hat with a brim to cover the brightness of the sun so that I can actually read my book. Anyways, point being is I couldn't read my book. So I'm sitting there at the beach, having already started to read the book, and I thought, well, this is the perfect time to practice what I've been reading. And I just sat there. I just laid there and I just looked up at the sky. And I was first thinking, I'm going to go back to the house and get a hat. And the house is only a 3-minute walk. We were right in front of the house. We were right on the beach, and I'm just laying flat on my back on my towel, staring at the sky, and I noticed the clouds, the beautiful white clouds. It wasn't cloudy; there just happened to be these white clouds moving, and I just started watching them, not consciously, like, oh, I'm going to sit here and watch the clouds. It just happened. And I was watching the clouds and I looked at him like, "Oh," I kinda had a thought of like, "That looks like whatever," right? And then I just was watching it move slowly and just turn into something different. And I kept watching them move and the clouds collide and turning into different shapes. And I probably sat there and stared at those clouds for about 30 minutes. And when I snapped out of it, I thought, wow, that was so beautiful. Like, when was the last time I did this? When I was a child? I can't remember doing this as an adult. I can't remember doing this with my children. And I just thought, wow, what a moment. Such beauty. I really experienced the beauty. And I just thought, this is so serendipitous. Like, I'm sitting here reading The Power of Now. I hadn't even read this particular um, excerpt from the book that I just read to you. I hadn't read this yet. So when I read this piece, I made notes on it and I was like, oh my gosh, like when I was looking at the clouds in Costa Rica. And so I made a note of that because it was really a moment of true presence. There was no thinking during this watching period. I was just watching the transformation, truly experiencing it. It was beautiful. So, going back to the book, beyond the beauty of the external forms, there is more here, something that cannot be named, something ineffable, I cannot pronounce that word, something ineffable. I'll have to look up the meaning of that. Some deep inner holy essence. Whenever and wherever there is beauty, this inner essence shines through somehow. It only reveals itself to you when you are present. Could it be that this nameless essence and your presence are one and the same? Would it be there without your presence? Go deeply into it and find out yourself. Wow. Would it be there without your presence? Wow. That's deep. I don't think so. That essence, that beauty would not have been there, wouldn't exist without me being present in that moment, in those 30 minutes that I was watching those clouds. Maybe it wasn't even 30 minutes. I mean, who knows? I wasn't keeping track. Who cares? Okay, back to the book. When you experience those moments of presence, you likely didn't realize that you were briefly in a state of no mind. This is because the gap between that state and the influx of thought was too narrow. Your satori may only have lasted for a few seconds before the mind came in, but it was there. Otherwise, you would not have experienced the beauty. Mind can neither recognize nor create beauty. Only for a few seconds while you were completely present was that beauty or that sacredness there. Because of the narrowness of that gap and a lack of vigilance and alertness on your part, you were probably unable to see the fundamental difference between the perception, the thoughtless awareness of beauty, and the naming and interpreting of it as a thought. The time gap was so small that it seemed to be a single process. The truth is, however, that the moment thought came in, all you had was a memory of it. The wider the time gap between perception and thought, the more depth there is to you as a human being, which is to say, the more conscious you are. Wow. Continued. Many people are so imprisoned in their minds that the beauty of nature does not really exist for them. They might say, "What a pretty flower, what a beautiful sunset." But that's just a mechanical mental labeling because they are not still, not present. Not present. They don't truly see the flower. They don't feel its essence, its holiness, just as they don't know themselves, don't feel their own essence or their own holiness. Wow, that's really profound. I hope you enjoyed that. So, highly recommend this book. So, now moving on to how can we integrate slowing down in our daily life? Here are some practical tips that have helped me. So, I'll go through them pretty quickly. One thing that I've started doing, actually, probably for about half a year now, is to start my day early enough that I don't have to rush through my morning. I'm giving myself 1 to 2 hours daily to have my coffee, to make it, to French press it calmly, to shower, to brush my teeth, to, wash my face, do a little makeup, check in with my guides, etc. Whatever my morning routine is, I've extended that so that I'm not trying to rush everything in 15 minutes and I actually give myself the time to take my time for an hour or two. Sometimes I decide to stretch. Sometimes I decide to go outside and have my coffee, giving myself that time. Number two is meditation. You can use guided meditations available on YouTube or apps like Insight Timer, or you can just kind of watch the thinker, like watch your thoughts without judging them, just watch them. And then you can start to create that gap in the mind stream simply by directing the focus of your attention into the now. In this way, you draw consciousness away from the mind activity and create a gap of no mind in which you are highly alert and aware but not thinking. This is the true essence of meditation. This piece I took out from The Power Now because I loved the explanation that it had for meditation. Number three, be present in your everyday life. You can practice this by taking any routine activity that normally is just a means to an end and giving it your fullest attention so that it becomes an end in of itself. For example, every time you walk up and down the stairs in your house or your place of work, pay close attention to every step, every movement, every breath you take. Be totally in the present. Or when you're washing your hands, pay attention to all the senses associated with the activity, the sound and the feel of the water, the movement of your hands, the scent of the soap, and so on. So that's be present. Number four, tune in and speak with your spirit guides and ask them what needs attention today. I like to just kind of take a few deep breaths, do a little meditation, and slow down, get grounded. Then I call in my spirit guides or my higher soul or my intuition, whatever you want to call it. And I ask them, what needs attention? What do I need to work on? What is my next step? So I do that almost every morning. Number five, I leave gaps in my schedule, in my calendar with nothing. So, whereas before I used to schedule my whole day, like 7 to 8, I'm going to make my coffee and get ready and blah, 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 and journal and check my calendar, blah, 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 blah. 8 to 9, I'm going to work on this project. 9 to 10, I have a meeting. 11 to 12, I'm going to work on this project. 12 to 12:30, I'm going to have my lunch. 12:30 to 1, I'm going to check email. 1 to 2, I'm working on this other client. 2 to 4, I'm going to do social media creation, content creation. I had my entire day scheduled out down to the 15 minutes. And if there was a little gap, I'd try to find and see what can I fill these 15 minutes with so that I can be super efficient, superstar. That wasn't working. So now I allow time in my schedule to slow down, check in with my spirit guides, make that space to feel my body and listen to my intuition. What do I need? Sometimes I go out for a walk during these little spaces that I leave, 30, 20, 15, 20, 30-minute walk. Sometimes I stretch, or I even took a nap the other day on the couch. I'm like, I got time. I'm going to take a nap. Why not? And then when I come back to my office, I just kind of feel renewed and I can actually work more efficiently and more focused. So that's something new that I've incorporated recently, and really I'm kind of loving it. Then number 6 is journaling. Journaling has helped me to put my thoughts, past and future, on paper. It has allowed me the time to slow down, and my intuition has been able to speak to me through writing. So then instead of occupying my head all day, my mind all day with all these thoughts of trying to process the past or trying to make plans for the future and oh my gosh, what am I going to make for dinner? I just write all this stuff down and get it out of my mind so that I can just take the time to work slowly through my day and not feel rushed. So, on that note of journaling, if you are interested in starting a journaling practice, I created a 7-day journaling experience of self discovery. I will link it in my show notes. It can be found on my website as well. It is absolutely free. You get 7 journaling prompts. They get delivered one daily to you in your inbox. And each day it's something different. Sometimes it's self discovery, sometimes it's about gratitude. Sometimes it's about celebrating your wins. So it's all a little bit different, but the concept is that in these 7 days, you have a chance to work on a little bit of self discovery for yourself in this time of midlife. So if journaling is something that you want to start incorporating, this is a great way to do it. It's, like I said, 7 prompts. They get delivered one daily to your inbox, and then that's it. And number 7, breath work. Sometimes all it takes is a few moments to take deep breaths and to simply pay attention to the breath with no judgment or no thought. So it is my deep belief that we all deserve to slow down, that in this slowing down, we are embracing the feminine energy. And feminine doesn't mean that we're devoid of the masculine, energy. We still need those action plans and the strategy. But when we lead with the feminine, we lead with a sense of slowing down, a sense of allowing space, a flexibility, of allowing ourselves to hear the messages, to receive those pings or intuitions, those hits, those downloads, the inspired action of what we should be doing, of calling someone, of going somewhere, of that little inspired action of something that just kind of feels right. We make the time and allow the space to hear that or to feel that in our bodies. And so when we do that, it actually allows us to work more efficiently and to even quantum leap, to create quicker and more transformation, more visible transformation in our own growth, whether it's personal or even business related. If you are finding yourself in a place where you need help, where you need to connect with your intuition, find your authenticity, get unstuck, get unblocked, work on limiting beliefs, if you're feeling like everything looks perfect on paper, but something inside isn't quite jiving, it's something is missing, or simply need to make room to slow down, I would love to help you. If you feel called, please schedule a clarity call with me so we can discuss what a healing session might look like for you, an energy healing session with intuitive channeling, or maybe it's a 6-week container where we work on different blocks and helping you gain clarity to peel back all the layers that society has placed on you, peel back the layers of limiting beliefs and generational trauma that have been placed on you over the years so we can truly allow that inner spark that is inside to start shining bright and discover your authenticity, discover what makes your soul shine and vibrate high, and so you can live in alignment with your soul purpose and authenticity. So the link to the complimentary call is in the show notes. And now I need your help. Please share this episode with a girlfriend, a prima, a sister, a comadre today. You know someone who is feeling scattered and pulled in a million different directions. She needs this episode. We all deserve and can find the time to slow down. We must prioritize ourselves in 2024. We must embrace the feminine energy, and I promise you, we can achieve more in less time. Thank you for being here. Hasta la próxima.